Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Josted. I'm Director of HR Compliance here at J.B. Hunt in Northwest Arkansas. I'm really happy that you took time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We're excited about this program we have for you over the next hour or so. And I want to thank you out of the gate for taking time to join us. So welcome aboard. We've got a great program, action-packed program to share with you. Who is Disability in Arkansas? Let me spend a few minutes talking about disability in Arkansas. A little over 3 years ago, we incorporated the state affiliate of Disability In that is part of the National Organization of Disability In. Disability in Arkansas, we've got a board of directors. Our mission here in the state of Arkansas and beyond the borders of Arkansas is to advance disability inclusion in our member companies and to help all workplaces build inclusive workforces across all landscapes in all industries to the greatest extent possible. So that's what we're about. That is our mission, and that's what we're excited to talk about today. One of our board members, John Taylor from Central Arkansas, will be sharing his thoughts on how you can get more involved later in the program. He'll be talking about that. But that's Disability in Arkansas. We're in our infancy, but today is our first webinar, and we're excited about sharing our passion for this space. We've had some in-person events since our incorporation before COVID hit. Of course, COVID kind of punched us in the gut and set us back a little bit. And so we're coming out of COVID full steam. And today is our first webinar event. And so we're excited to have you join us. Before I move on into other topics, I want to give a huge shout out to Rodney Chandler. Rodney is the Director of Business Engagement at the Arkansas Division of Workforce Services in Little Rock. Rodney has been a tremendous help for the board, getting the affiliate stood up, getting it incorporated, getting our website going. He's been a tremendous help to all board members, and he continues to be a great help. And by the way, Rodney and his team stand ready to help in any way to you or any other company out there seeking to move the needle with your disability inclusion efforts. So I just want to give a huge shout out to Rodney and his team at the Arkansas Division of Workforce Services. He's there to help. Okay, next I want to cover the agenda. Real quick, I just kind of want to give everybody a layout of what we're going to be looking at here. If you could go to the next slide. To the agenda. There we go. Thank you. Our keynote speaker today is Randy Lewis. He's going to be talking about the Walgreens hiring initiative. A great story he's going to share with us. He'll be speaking for about 25 to 30 minutes. It's got a lot of great information. Then we're going to have Derwin Davis, a senior recruiter at Union Pacific, also one of the members of our board. He's going to share what's been going on at Union Pacific. Derwin works out of Little Rock as a senior recruiter. And then our final remarks, as I said earlier, are going to come from John Taylor, store manager at Marshall's in Little Rock. And he's got a passion for this space, and he's going to share with you what's going on at Marshall's and also give you some encouragement on getting involved and helping us out with this initiative in Arkansas. So, all right, next slide. I want to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about what we got going on at J.B. Hunt. Really, really proud of our strong culture of disability inclusion at J.B. Hunt, in spite of the challenges that are created by the Department of Transportation safety regulations. You know, about 2/3 of our workforce are company drivers, and those company drivers, of course, are subject to Department of Transportation regulations, rules and regulations, which obviously are geared a lot toward the safety of our drivers as well as the motoring public. My team on the HR side works closely with our DOT safety team as we pursue opportunities for individuals with disabilities within the parameters of the regulations. Oftentimes, sometimes our safety team may be a little skeptical about making it happen. Working with the HR team, we have been really, really proud of the progress we've made. and some of the huge wins that we've made. Department of Transportation provides certain waivers under the regulations, and I'm proud to say we've got about 30 drivers currently out on the road with a variety of Department of Transportation waivers ranging from hearing impairments, vision impairments, we have amputees, and one of our recent new hires, next slide, one of our recent new hires that I'm extremely proud of what we've been able to do, if you flip to the next slide, please, is James. I want to show you a picture of James. Next slide, please. Here's James. James is a driver for us up in the Northeast. James is a paraplegic. He is a fully capable driver. James, as you see, is in a wheelchair. He climbs up into the cab. He has a tool where he reaches back down to the ground. He grabs his wheelchair, disassembles it into 3 pieces, sticks it behind his seat, pulls out some other assistive technologies, and takes off down the road. He is one of the safest drivers we have, and we are extremely proud of James and his determination, his persistence in jumping through the hoops with the Department of Transportation and our safety department. He was subjected to numerous road tests and passed with flying colors. And James is a testament. I hope you will see what we're doing at JB Hunt. We're working really hard to make opportunities available for individuals who are differently abled. And so we're really proud of where we are there. So with that, I want to turn our attention to our featured speaker. I want to be mindful of our time. I want to introduce Randy Lewis. Randy is the founder and president of the NOGWOG Fund, NOGWOG.org. It's an Illinois not-for-profit. In 2014, Randy launched the NOGWOG Disability Initiative to assist businesses and communities in developing and launching disability hiring initiatives. These initiatives result in a more inclusive and effective workforce for business. They improve the well-being of the community, and they positively impact all those involved, whether disabled or not. Randy pioneered this model at Walgreens, where he served 20 years. When Randy retired in 2013, he had served 16 years as a senior vice president of logistics and supply chain, and he was responsible for all aspects of logistics, including strategy, operations, engineering, IT systems, and inventory management. I think that's enough. The Walgreens supply chain is considered the most advanced logistics network in its industry. Again, if you have an opportunity after today's webinar, I want to encourage you to go to NOGWOG, NOGWOG.org. What does that stand for? No greatness without goodness. That's Randy's tagline. I think it's an excellent message. And without further ado, we are honored and privileged to have Randy Lewis today as our featured speaker. Randy, the microphone is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Mark. It's guess we have to do some little technical things to get started here. So I think we practiced enough. Maybe it'll work. All right. Does that look pretty good to you, everybody out there? I'm going to start this with a premise. If somebody came up to you and said, what if there was a workforce out there, a group of people who could perform as well or better than the folks that we typically are able to recruit and bring into the company, and we can't get to them, what would you think? Put that idea, because a lot of what I'll be talking about starts with that premise. And also, as I get ready to tell this, I would like you to think back, everyone to think back at a time in their lives, we all had this time, when we were the most optimistic or the most idealistic, and what the kind of world that we wanted to build. We all had those days. So, because I'm going to tell you a story And I hope you see yourself in this story. And I think that that frame of reference will help. My story begins with my son. There he is there on the right. At age 3, now I have to say this, all children teach us lessons, whether what they say, what they do, sometimes just what they are. That's the way it's been with my 2 girls and our son there, Austin. Austin was diagnosed with autism at age 3. We noticed he wasn't speaking, so we had him examined, fully expecting that they would tell us boys are late, and boy, did we get a shock when they told us the diagnosis. He actually didn't start speaking till about age 10. And then you will think if you ever get a chance to talk to him, you'll think he's trying to make up for lost time. He loves, he spends a lot of time on the web. He loves The Simpsons, 1980s cars, American Airlines, and his interests have expanded, especially in the light of all the politics that have been going around and the pandemic. He has a lot more questions and a lot more complex questions. But Austin, oh, by the way, he drives. Now his sister there on the left failed her driver's test twice. Austin passed his the first time, and he has sort of an odd sense of humor. One day, Allison there on the left had some friends over, and Austin was listening on the side, and he just blurted out, "Elmer, Allison failed her driver's test twice." Allison wasn't too happy about that, and I happened to be in the kitchen, and I overheard it, and I said, "Austin, you cannot speak about Allison's driver's test. You can only speak about your own." "Elmer, on my driver's test, I didn't back into a yard." So you have to love him. Now, despite his charm, Austin has lots of challenges. He probably reads at about a 3rd or 4th grade level. He can't do longhand multiplication and division. He would have difficulty answering a what if question. He has no peer friends. He's never gotten an email, never written an email. And I've never played a game with my son, not even a game of catch in the backyard. And if he's like most kids like him, he would never be offered a job. Because when it comes to getting a job, people with disabilities die a death of 1,000 cuts. They don't have the background that we're looking for. They don't have the interviewing skills. They don't have, they don't learn the way we're used to teaching. They look different, they act different, they seem different. And the worst cut of all is the belief by 90% of us that people with disabilities, hiring people with disabilities is a great idea if you can afford it, but they really can't do the job as well. And a lot of us say, well, we send us qualified candidates, but our policy is to hire the best qualified candidate. That's what they're up against. And I'm sitting here thinking about this because a job, we start thinking about as parents of children with disabilities, we start thinking about a job almost the instant we get that diagnosis because a job can change a lot. And that's certainly where I was. I'd lay in bed at night and I'd be thinking about this, what's going to happen after we're gone. And I've also learned that most of us parents of children with disabilities share the same wish, to live one day longer than our child because we know what's waiting. But a job can change everything. So here I am working at Walgreens. We're growing. I've got this big job and we're very successful. And I'm thinking, if we can't do something about it, which company can? And if I can't do something in my role, who will? So it started with just that idea. We've got to do something. So we said, well, we've got all these centers. They're growing. We're hiring 1,000 people a year. What can we do? So we started off like what do we do? So we probably did like a lot of people. Why don't we consider going out to an agency that has people with disabilities? Maybe we might outsource some of our work, our ancillary work, mission critical, not mission critical. But we said, well, why don't we do something a little better than that? Why don't we bring them in, because we want to expose our folks to people with disabilities, and that's called an enclave, where the agency brings in their own job coaches. They work as kind of their own group, and we did that in several centers, and everybody was telling me, oh, this enclave, this is fantastic. Everybody was happy about it. They were telling stories about how they come to work when nobody else does and everything else. And we were feeling pretty good about ourselves, and people were giving us awards. And I was down in our Dallas office, Dallas Center, and I was walking around with this woman, and she's telling me how great it is and how the group is, and all the things they've done. They've given team member name badges and team member t-shirts so they would feel like part of the team. But they weren't, because she was sitting there telling me this. I'm trying to figure out who she is, because I didn't know this woman, and she's showing me a picture of the group, and she's in the picture, so I'm obviously confused, and she must have seen my confusion, because she said, here she is in the picture, she's in this picture, and she said, oh, but I'm not one of them. And it hit with force of harpoon. They weren't doing the same jobs. They weren't earning the same pay. They weren't us. We had to do better. And I got to thinking, gee whiz, we've had all these people in our building. Certainly somebody, we've had a chance, they've already sort of done a working interview during all this time. Why don't we use that as the interview, and let's ask for volunteers among our workforce who would be peer coaches that they could work alongside and learn the job. And a lot of people volunteered. One of those folks we hired was a fellow named Chuck. Chuck had an associate's degree from junior college in accounting. He drove, never held a job, did a good work. He was a little different. We put him with two ladies that volunteered. Every time a purple tote would come by his area, he would stop and yell out to everybody, calling their attention to it, and start dancing. Something we'd never seen. And we, of course, being a professional environment, managers got together and they said, is this appropriate? Is this appropriate behavior for the workplace? And to their credit, very quickly, they went through the following logic. Well, which would we prefer? Dancing or complaining? Let's go with dancing. And when I asked those people that he worked with, those two ladies, I said, does anybody in this building have a problem with Chuck? Have they made a comment about him, about being weird or something like that? And she said, no. But if anybody has a problem with Chuck, they've got a problem with us. Now we were making progress. So here comes along the opportunity. We're going to build a new building, actually a series of new buildings. And I got to thinking, gee whiz, this is working out pretty well, because there were lots of Chucks in different buildings. Why can't we take this model and expand it and use it in a large scale and for this new building, starting from the ground up? We had two volunteer coaches for each person with a disability, use that same model. Why can't we do that? And so we thought, if we were going to do this, it's going to be same jobs, same pay, same performance standards, and there's not going to be any talk of them when we walk through those buildings. And because we're going to have 600 people working in this building, we aimed high. We said, let's take something that's really hard to do, but possible to do, that will inspire us to do our best work to make it happen. And oh, by the way, everybody wanted Everybody loved hiring people with disabilities. Once they learned about them, they realized that they do the work as well. We're going to do 1/3 of the workforce, 200 people, 600 people who probably never had a job before. But we knew that we couldn't just hire here and there, because in day one, we needed 70 people with disabilities if it were going to be 1/3. So our regular hiring methods would not work, because most of those folks don't have a job history that we look for, or the right experience that we look for, or they don't have the interviewing skills. And if we look for fit, they would probably not be very good at that. Matter of fact, if you ask Austin a typical hiring job of, why would you like to work here at Walgreens? My son would say, I don't know, I've never worked here before. Be off the list. But we remembered we had that working interview. Now we couldn't use the same, we have to do a little bit more than that. So what we did, so we do have another way into the company. We have temps occasionally that we hire. So why don't we use something we know? So why don't we have a different door? Internships, maybe over a period of time where they can come in, demonstrate they can do the job, and then hire. So that's what we did. And it kind of worked like this. So imagine this building. The building there is us, and there's this agency out there. We had to find multiple agencies that would have people access to people with disabilities, because you put an ad in the paper, typically able people are always looking for a job, but this is a group of people who may not be looking for jobs. So we want to take that person to come in, the person from the agency, not look at our job descriptions because they're never right, but come in, learn the jobs. We want you to read our job descriptions. We want you to observe the jobs. We want you to ask questions so you thoroughly understand this and come up with a job analysis against which you can compare and evaluate candidates for this working interview. And after they do that, we're going to tell them, we're going to give you a hiring schedule for each quarter of how many people with disabilities we're looking for. And we want you to take that and go out and find a group of people that you think will be successful. We're not going to interview them. We're not going to look at their work history. We want you to find a group you think will be successful. And then we want you to spend a couple of weeks, maybe part-time, bringing them in, and you, the agency, teach them the soft skills you think they will need to work. Kind of the informal, adaptive orientation. Let them walk around and hear the sounds, all the noises, and see what it's like. Can they show up to work? How do they ask for help when they're on the job if they have a problem? There's little things like this, the soft skills. And once that 2 weeks is finished, we actually put them in a cohort. They become what we call a transitional work group, doing real work with our managers and the agency's job coaches. And they will work for 9 weeks being paid. And we'll evaluate them every week. And at the end of that 9 weeks, and they demonstrate performance, they're hired. And what we do is we repeat that every quarter. So as one group's in the transition group, they're looking for the next group to fill that schedule. And we do it on and on again. And that's how we were able to move forward. That was our plan, and it's tended out to work out very well. Our actual percentage success rate of the people who go into the transitional work group is about 90%. Now, when we made the announcement about this center, you would have think that we cured cancer. It made the Wall Street Journal. It surprised me. We were going to hire 200 people, and it made national news. One of the people who heard this was Desiree. She lived in San Diego, was working at a temp at some sort of office company. Now, Desiree has a rare muscle condition that requires that she use a walker sometimes. And one day she comes into work and her boss, and she has a walker, and her boss says, "What's the deal with the walker?" Desiree says, "Well, I don't need it all the time, but I do need it sometimes." And her boss said, "Great, come in when you don't." Desiree packed up her bags, moved across the country, and is now managing that building. People will ask me, what kind of people with disabilities can we not hire? We haven't found a single disability that we would automatically disqualify because every disability is a range. We can't hire every person with autism, but we've hired a lot more than we thought. We have every three-letter initial out there. We run the gamut, all kinds. And if you go there, you will come across all kinds of people. And we've got some great people. Oh, by the way, we wouldn't have hired Desiree had we not been looking, because we would have seen that walker and say, "Gee whiz, we want our folks to be able to work in all parts of our building, and some places are not accessible that way. So let's go to the next candidate." This would have been the case with Angie. Angie has cerebral palsy. Went to graduate school at Clemson, cum laude, could not find a job because they would see, and what Angie calls her sexy walk and her sexy talk way of talking. And she requires you pay attention when she speaks. But we would have probably seen her resume and had the same experience that Angie describes when she ever had an in-person interview, that kind of look of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Well, we did hire Angie, and there's a lot of noise out there. We would have probably had before, we'd probably passed on and said there's too much noise, or maybe there's going to be a fire and she can't move fast enough to get out. That hadn't been a problem. As far as hearing Angie, when Angie talks, people listen because she has something to say. Angie is probably the best HR person I have ever worked with. She now runs her own building in Georgia. And we would have taken a pass because we would have seen the disability and not the person. For Harrison, who has autism, who can't multiply or divide, came out of high school, he wouldn't have even gotten through our online application. But he performs every job in that building at 150%. He runs a line in that building. Last time I saw him, he had a headset. I said, "What's the headset for?" And he says, "Well, I got to help get this other line started over there. I can't talk to you long because I got to go over there and work." And on and on. This is what that building looks like. The number of people with disabilities working in that building in all kinds of jobs across the board. And you'll see somebody that looks like you. Now, you're wondering, I hope, how did it turn out? Well, I wouldn't be here talking to you if it didn't turn out well. We published all the data about this. Oh, by the way, kind of the bottom line of this building is the most productive in the company's history. But we knew people may not believe whatever we say, so we published the data in this magazine, Professional Safety. And if you go to the website that Mark mentioned, nagwag.org, you can download this. We had them do a peer-reviewed study of performance, safety, retention, and this is it. And the results were people with disabilities perform as well or better. Employee turnover is half, and in this day and age, it's even better than twice as good as typically able, especially in COVID. Surely all the folks that have people with disabilities see that too. For example, my son Austin, works at a distribution center, a Meyer distribution center, an hour away in Wisconsin. 7 years of perfect attendance. Safety cost, a lot less, 70% less. Now, if you look at real closely at the screen in the top left, you see a bar chart there. The red is people with disabilities. That's performance. That's people with disabilities. And the blue are people, typically able people. We call it the same in the study. Performance was slightly better for people with disabilities. If you look at turnover, the magazine's not really good at consistency. Blue is people with disabilities on the left, there on the bottom. Turnover is red on the right. So you see the turnover number. And the other one is to look on the bottom right. That's forklift accidents, a number of hours, and that's in there. And the line on the left, the lower number, are people with disabilities. And that's the other number. And so, like Mark said, they have a lot of deaf people. We have lots of deaf drivers. They are very safe. And people ask us, why are they safe? Here's the secret. They follow the rules. In most of our buildings, it's people with disabilities who are doing the training. So once we got started there, it rolled out across the rest of the United States. And it's in all buildings now. In that original number of 200 in that building, which actually is about 250, this is what it looks like today. Almost 2,000 people, most of whom had never had a job, 20% of the entire distribution workforce at the Walgreen Company. And one of the things that I think gave this power, we said we're going to give it away. So when we did, we had a lot of other companies come in. We opened it up. I would invite your companies there. I can help you do that. We've had over 100 or 200 companies come through our buildings, and we gave it all away. And a lot of other companies have launched their own initiative. In Crown, well known, that's in manufacturing. Toyota, P&G in manufacturing. Rest of these are a lot of distribution centers. Even in the UK, they were doing the same thing and come. So I hope that you come visit. Now, when the thing that probably affects us most when people visit, they come to see people with disabilities, which they see that, but we put them in this room with managers because we walk them through the building, they see this, they see that, and we say we call it our Las Vegas room. We're going to sit down and have lunch. We're going to have a group of frontline managers, and you can ask them any question you like. And the questions vary. But I remember one person asking, I think it was the CEO of Best Buy division, and he said, what's a bad day like here? I've heard all this good stories and I see all this and the numbers. What's a bad day? You certainly got to have a bad day here. I'd never heard the question before. And one of the managers said, well, a bad day for me is when I bring in my troubles. You know, some of those days when we're driving to work and we want to drive back home so we can kick the dog. He says, because when I come in and I'm having a bad day, one of three things will happen. Some people will shut down, not good. Some people will come up to me and tell me I'm a jerk. And some people will come up and hug me. So I've learned when I am here, it's about us and not me. And I thought that was a pretty good answer. And what will come out of that meeting usually is people are astounded in the stories the managers tell, the pride, and they will talk about how it has changed them or one of their proudest moments is how they were to make something, adjust something to make someone successful. For example, we had a person with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, who could not keep up on the number of cases because he was focusing on how they opened. And so simply just took a card and made little boxes for the number of cases he was supposed to process every 30 minutes, and he focuses on checking those off. Didn't cost anything, but it required the manager to understand the person, and you hear that over and over. They talk about the culture. Most people who go away from that and do something about it, they go for it saying, yeah, I want to have people with disabilities because of the workforce they are, but I want the culture. I remember one time Steve Szilagyi, who was head of supply chain at Lowe's, I had talked to him about visiting, and he had never been there before, and I figured he would visit, and 2 weeks later write me an email thanking me for it or whatever. He called me as he left the building. He said, I saw it, I got it, and I want it. That was the reaction he had, and a lot of people have that. So I'm going to show you a movie of managers telling you themselves. I've talked enough about it, but as you watch this, I want you to think about that time in your life when what kind of world you wanted to build, and think about, as you listen to these managers talk about what it is to work here, what do you think about that? Is that the way things are at our companies, or is this something we would want? So if we could run that right quick, I go off this, and I'll go back to, are you off the sharing? So can we run that movie now?
Yeah, we're running it now.
In 2007, Walgreens launched a new generation of distribution centers like no other in the world. The objective was to build the most productive center ever and to employ a large number of people.
I've never allowed into my management style, nor into any facility that I've ever been into, and that's managing with love, managing with care, managing with a heart. That's the big change here.
It's all about the people.
To manage and be successful in our building, you have to focus on the individual.
Everybody has a different motivator, and it's up to me to find out what that motivator is.
It takes a lot of creativity and to come in with no fear.
I am allowed to be creative with the team members. That is not a hard line stance where either you get it or you don't get it. It's an opportunity to see what the issue is and work with that team member.
That relationship that you make with an individual, whether they have a disability or not, makes or breaks that person's success.
We are very focused in this building on making folks successful.
As far as the key indicators that we look at for safety and productivity, we are the number one in our division.
We started each day as one. When Daryl made production, we all made production. When Melissa did excellent at accuracy, we all did excellent with accuracy. When John worked safely, we all worked safely.
It changes the whole culture of a building. You will have a team that thinks about other people before they think about themselves.
We've all been.
Made me a better manager. It's made me a better man. It's made me a better father and a better husband.
I'm a better leader because of it. I got more compassion, got more patience, which has not always been a strong suit of mine. I see folks for who they are now, as opposed to what they look like.
People with disabilities perform the same job, earn the same pay, and are held to the same performance standards as everyone else. The center is the most productive in the company's history. Over 30% of the workforce has a disability. Most have never been able to secure a steady job before. The idea is spread, and within 4 years, 1,000 people with disabilities were working in centers across the country. And that's the move. We don't need to roll the credits. Okay, so can we go to me? You see me on the camera? Okay, good. All right, so I'm alive. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I think we'll end with where we started. This all started with the premise is maybe there's a group of people out there that we can't get to that can perform the job as well. But I think you see that it's a lot more than that. And when people come, or if I talk in a live conference or whatever, the question always is, the first question, I've even been on panels, what was your greatest impediment? What do you have to watch out for? And I have to tell you, let me give you context. Every summer, ever since we did this, I have a group of executives that come every summer to my house, and we lay on the beach, tell lies, and talk about hiring people with disabilities. And it comes up sometimes. What is our biggest regret? What was the biggest problem with this? And we all do agree. The biggest impediment to this is fear. It's fear that it won't work. You know, why fix something that's not broken? And I would say that's probably true. Most people don't do something about it because they don't know about it. When they get to it, they go, well, what we have now works. It's fear. And I do know fear. I mean, I know fear personally. I know a fear of looking failure, fear of loss of position. I think we all have that. But fear is something that has kept me, my regrets has kept me still when I should have said something. It's kept me inactive when I should have acted. I thank goodness that I was able to recognize this opportunity and do something, because had I not, it would have been one of the biggest regrets of my career had I learned I could have done something. And oh, by the way, here's the truth too. When we talk to all these executives and retirees, we talk about our biggest regrets. It's usually something that we could have done, but we didn't because of probably fear. I have come to believe what Marianne Williamson said is true. What is our biggest fear? Our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our biggest fear is not our darkness. It's our lightness, that we are more powerful than ever. It does not do the world any service to play it small. We were made manifest to reveal that glory to the world. And by doing so, letting our light shine and overcoming our fears, we give permission to others. I think she spoke some words of wisdom. We tend to underestimate our power. We do have power. All of us here. You have the power of voice to persuade, to inform. You have the power of action to do, the power of position to set directions, to garner the resources. We underestimate it. This has been the best work of our lives. You can hear it in the voices. You can see it in the faces. If you do this, even if it falls short, it would have been worth it. So I started big about that new world. What was that new world that you dreamed of, but maybe thought it was far out there? I won't talk about a new world, but we can build a better workplace. That's what this is about. Thank you for letting me share your time with you today, and I wish you all the best. Please come see us. Oh, yeah, Derwin. I got to turn it back over to Derwin. I kind of get lost over. I went into my deal. I'm sorry, Derwin. Derwin, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother.
Thank you, Randy. Before I begin, I'm going to pause and allow the event organizer to speak to the guests about the chat option, the Q&A.
Hey, everybody, real quick, I just want to specifically remind everybody that there is a chat option on your screen. So if you have any questions, hopefully we'll have time near the end of the session to answer some questions. If you've got specific questions for Randy as a result of his excellent presentation, hopefully we'll have some time. If we run out of time answering any questions, rest assured we will work to answer those questions and make those available through our website. Or other means, but we'll make sure that we get those questions answered. Want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay, Derwin, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. First off, I'd like to begin by saying, wow. Randy, you touched me, man. I realize one thing today is that, you know, my company, we can do better as far as hiring individuals that are differently able to do the work. You touched me in a profound way, and it made me think about an experience that I had in my journey in the workforce. In 2005, I was diagnosed with a very rare skin cancer, which required me to be pulled out of service. I couldn't do my job. But one thing I will share with you is what my company did for me and what we are doing as an organization today to help individuals who are differently able or unable to perform their work in the workplace currently. We're making strides to make a change in the industry, but I just want to share what we are doing right now. Union Pacific last year developed an employee resource group called EASE. And this organization was organized to educate, advocate, and support and encourage individuals who work for our organization who may have a disability or they may have a family member with a disability. And Randy, I guess that's what made your presentation so special, and it touched me in such a manner that, you know, I had to share my experience. And back then in 2005, the company allowed me you know, to basically continue working while I was going through treatment, but not as, you know, during the time frame in which I was not able to perform my job. And that program was called Temporary Productive Work. And I didn't miss a paycheck. And that was a very new program at the time that Union Pacific started to help our employees continue to do productive work and still maintain a source of income for themselves and their families. But what EASE is doing is raising the awareness through education and talking and teaching about inclusion in the workforce. We had never done this before. This is new territory that we haven't ventured into before. And when I met Rodney Chandler last year, you know, I shared with him, you know, some things that I wanted to do as far as aligning our vision as an organization with what he was doing within the state of Arkansas and his organization and connections that he has throughout the state of Arkansas. It's been a very wonderful experience for me. And I have the ability and the influence to make that change in the industry. And I make a personal commitment today, from this day forward, to be that voice for those individuals that are differently able to do this work. So another program that we have is that we just implemented last year is called the Direct Placement Program. You know, there are times where individuals who can no longer work as a train conductor, they may not be able to perform their duties because of a hearing impairment as a diesel mechanic, because these are safety sensitive environments. Very, very dangerous work that we do. So what this program is designed to help these individuals that are differently able to find another job opportunity within the company without losing their job altogether. And that's a pretty cool, good news story that I'm excited about. There's an opportunity that I'll be, to hire an individual in another craft this tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And I'm really looking forward to opening this opportunity up for this individual. And I just wanted to keep it brief. But one thing that I've gathered from today, and including Mark, what JB Hunt has done for the individual who's wheelchair bound, these individuals can still do the work. We just need to change the culture. And we have to challenge ourselves. For those of us that are here today, I know for me personally, it impacted me as a presenter today that we need to change the culture in the workplace, and the change begins with us as individuals. So I digress, and I will pass the baton to John Taylor, and he will close us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Derwin. Well said. I myself started on this journey towards incorporating disability and inclusion in the workforce way back when Disability In was still the US BLN, and it was Randy was the first person I ever heard speak on the topic many years ago. So your work and also your book, for those of you out there, Randy wrote an amazing book, No Goodness Without Greatness. I would absolutely encourage many of you that are just starting your disability and inclusion journey in the workplace, buy it and read it. That being said, those of us that are already part of Disability and have some shared commitments, specifically, we collaborate with people to promote the full inclusion of people with disabilities into our workplace and to inspire accessible innovation for everyone and to foster a culture of inclusion. And so when I say a culture of inclusion, I want to hit you with a statistic. And this statistic is pre-COVID. So I'm sure it's a bit more intense now. But labor participation for people with disabilities, it sits at 32.8. That's compared to people without a disability at 77.1. Again, that's pre-COVID. The scary thing about that, it becomes, how do I get these people into the workplace? But more often, what's in it for us? So Randy touched on a great deal of what was in it for him. Particularly, it reduced turnover by 50% where he put his programs in place. Another thing I want to hit you with as well is when you hire somebody with a disability, your retention rate is going to go to about 85% with the most recent statistics I've seen. I want you to think about that with all of the news that we hear about how hard it is to hire people and bring them back into the workplace. Having somebody with a disability that you bring on board, 85% retention rate. They're going to stay with you. They're going to build experience in your organization. And again, to Randy's earlier point, those are the people, when they've got experience, that you can trust them to train the people that you bring on board. They're an integral part of your culture and your onboarding process. There's lots of challenges to bringing people on with the disability. One, and we've already talked about it, it's fear. But there's misperception problems as well. And that's a serious barrier. And those barriers are eroding, but it's taking too much time. But some of those barriers are flat out unconscious bias. There's insufficient accessibility technology, and there's a non-inclusive supply chain. All of those things can be worked around, but you've got to get past your fear of the unknown to make it happen. So being part of Disability In means that you can come in and you can join us in this space. And that's something that Mark talked about at the beginning, is that all of us, as part of Disability in Arkansas, we have a passion for disability and inclusion, and we live in this space, and hopefully our passion and excitement for it is evident to those of you that are watching the call. But when you come in with us, it means that you can join a group that's already walked the path that you're looking to travel yourself. You have the experience and advantage of what we've been through. We've all had some challenges when it comes to hiring people with disabilities, but we've learned from them. We've learned from those mistakes, and we can share our wins with you so that you can accelerate your disability and inclusion programs much faster. So when you come in with us, when you join us, you're able to come further down the road faster. And that's what we're here to do. I would also tell you this when it comes to disability hiring. I know many of you out there are in the HR sphere or hiring managers directly. Obviously, we can't do a show of hands because we're all in person. But I want you all to think about a time where you thought you had an amazing resume and an amazing application and an interview that blew your mind. And then a completely different person showed up for day one. And you sit back to yourself and say, where was that amazing person from the interview? I thought you were going to be great. And then they're just another candidate. I can tell you that it doesn't matter if somebody has a disability or not. If they can do the job and they fit in your culture, take the chance, because it's the exact same chance that you took with that one person that you thought would be amazing and wasn't. For all people, we all have skill sets and we're all different. Take the chance, bring them on board. If they can do the job and they fit your culture, it's the same chance that you take with somebody that doesn't have an identified disability, and we can show you the way. That being said, I think it's 11:30. We're happy to answer any questions that you have, but I want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to join us. And when you're ready, come on in.
Randy, this is Mark. I've got a few questions that have come in over the chat line. If our participants are able to hold on for a few more minutes, and they can benefit possibly from your answers. First question is there an option to fast track an applicant if they don't need the initial 2-week soft skill training and or the entire 9-week internship?
Yeah, the door is still open for anybody to come through the regular door. And what we do is we typically, on those candidates, we interview them, and then we decide you'd be appropriate for the, if somebody comes off the street, not through an agency. We say, okay, we think you would benefit from this, the work group, we want you to contact them and come through that way, or we'll just go ahead and interview you straightforward as we would anybody else. And obviously they're going to disclose their disability, so that would be a positive in our environment. And we just let them come in what we call the open door.
Very good.
And we may use peer coaches to do that, knowing that they may have some issues, but they'll be like everybody else.
Right. Another quick question: where did Walgreens find the individuals with disabilities for the internships?
We interviewed a lot of agencies and said, here's our expectation. We want 75 day one, and we're going to have so many per quarter. Can you deliver? And they did. That's the biggest problem, is finding a good supplier, because they're used to, this is the way it happens. The agencies or state will come up and beg, say, give us your job descriptions, and if we have the right person, we'll send them out to you, and they interview and they fail. This is saying for a partner, oh, by the way, here's the schedule so you can commit. You can commit the resources, because these are going to be real job, and it's going to be a flow, it's going to be a pipeline. But finding a partner that's willing to do that, or has that mindset, because the whole supply side is used to onesie twosies, begging, and everything's in flux. So what we try to do is straighten out that pipeline.
Very
and
good.
If they don't perform, we get another supplier.
Right. I got a comment submitted from the Arkansas Rehab Services. They say that, part of an employer's fear is how they may accommodate an employee with a disability. They comment that Arkansas Rehab Services Access and Accommodations has a stay at work, return to work program to accommodate the employees you may already have who have been diagnosed with a disabling condition. So there's definitely opportunities to pursue options there. And Arkansas Rehab Services, as well as the Arkansas Division of Workforce Services, I mentioned earlier, Rodney Chandler and his team are there to help you out in any way possible. Another question that came in was, can we provide links to where candidates can apply for these organizations? We certainly will. We'll make those links available on the Arkansas Disability In website. Of course, Arkansas Division of Workforce Services under Rodney's team and the rehab services, that website is there as well as an option to provide assistance in that end. To get candidates exposure to companies that are looking for they have positions available. So those are all the questions I'm seeing on the feed. I would like to again thank everybody. I want to thank Randy, our guest speaker. Excellent job, fantastic message. The participants out there currently are viewing a slide that indicates what we're calling Partners in Progress. As we continue to build out the affiliate here in Arkansas, you can see there's a lot of interest as we continue to pursue those communications. Again, all hats off to Rodney and his team as they engage with businesses across Arkansas to build out this affiliate and make it a bigger and better resource for all of us. So with that, thank you again for joining us. Have a great day and go make a difference. Thanks.